Speak Out Pre-Intermediate, Unit 4.3, Vocabulary and Giving Advice. In this presentation, in the first part, we are going to study language learning vocabulary. Then, we will study how to give advice and respond to advice. Next, we will do some practice with the answers. And I'll give some suggestions for the further study and practice. Let's start with the language learning vocabulary. To study new vocabulary, here I have a common question for you to get the ways of how to study. The question is, what kind of activities can a student do to learn a language better? Let's look at my suggestions. To learn a language better, a student can reread the notes that he or she takes during the lesson. Reread, reread. Reread means the act of reading something again. The student can look up new words in a dictionary. Look up, look up. Look up means finding information in a book or on a computer. The student can watch films with subtitles. Subtitle, subtitle. Subtitles are the words on a film which translate what a character says. To learn a language better, a student can go online to make more practice. Go online. Go online. Go online means using the internet. The student can chat to other learners on a given topic. Chat. Chat. Chat means talking, maybe on the internet. The student can note down new phrases in his or her notebook. Note down. Note down. Note down is the act of writing. And finally, the student can keep a vocabulary file to memorize new words. Memorize. Memorize. Memorize means studying something until you remember. Now here we have an exercise to revise these words. Please pause the video and fill in the blanks. Okay, let's look at the answers. Sam is a very talkative man. He always chats to other people in the office. This article is too difficult to understand. I have to reread it twice. In these days, people generally go online to search about COVID-19. I can't concentrate on the movie when I read the subtitles of the film. I couldn't memorize their names because there are 80 students in the group. When Sarah looked up the negative effects of coronavirus on the internet, she felt anxious. Now, let's move on to the second part. In this part, we are going to study the function of how to give and respond to advice. As you see, sometimes people have problems. And to solve these problems, the best way is asking help and suggestions from others. To get some advice, people generally ask, what do you advise me to do? What should I do? What do you suggest or recommend? What's your advice? What would you do in this situation? Can you give me some advice about? Here is the most frequently asked question during the distance education process. The question is, what should a student do to be successful during the distance education period? Before reading the samples, let's look at the phrases that we use to give advice. For strong advice, should is used to say what is the right thing or good thing to do. We use shouldn't to say that it's not a good thing to do or it's not the right thing. You can also use the expressions why don't you and it's a good idea to make suggestions. They are usually softer than should. For strong advice, you can also use imperatives. Now, look at the samples which can be useful for you in the distance education period. I think you should follow online education tools such as Edmodo and Canvas daily. You should go online and watch the lesson videos on YouTube. You shouldn't waste time. Don't forget, it's not a holiday break. Why don't you follow the language education sites to do more practice? I think it's a good idea to be in contact with your teachers all the time to motivate yourself. Make a daily study plan to organize your study. Let's see how we can respond to advice. If you accept the advice, you will say, "That's a good idea. I suppose so. You're right." If you reject or refuse the given advice, you may say, "I'm not sure that's a good idea." Let's do some more practice. Here is my question. What should I do to protect myself from coronavirus? Now, please pause the video and write 5 sentences by using different phrases for giving advice. Now, look at my sample answers. To protect yourself from COVID-19, you should wash your hands with soap and water. Often do this at least 20 seconds. I think it's a good idea to avoid close contact within about 2 meters with people outside of your home. I think it's not a good idea to attend large events and mass gatherings. I think you should wear a cloth face mask in public areas. You shouldn't touch your eyes, nose, and mouth with unwashed hands. You shouldn't take public transportation if possible. Isolate yourself as much as possible. Why don't you stay in touch with family and friends over the phone or on social media? Okay. And these are my further study and practice suggestions for you. First, you can do these activities from your books. Then, secondly, you can do the given activities from my English lab. Next, you can visit this website to see more samples. And for extra practice, you may write a paragraph and upload it on Enmodo. You will ask your teacher for feedback. The topic is you run an online advice column as me. Read the email asking for advice and write a paragraph to reply to the question. The problem is, "Dear sir or madam, I'm quite a shy person. I've just moved to a new city. I don't know anyone here, and I'm lonely. What's your advice?" You will write a paragraph and upload it on Edmodo. Okay, thanks for your participation.